than me.
Carrie Smith, is that you?
It's me.
Okay. We can only see a few of your curls.
I'm sorry to hear that.
You need a new cameraman, Carrie.
I'll speak to the cameraman in just a few minutes. I have to reposition a few tools.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the April 19th, 2022 special city council meeting to order. And tonight we're going to have further discussion on the Parks Master Plan draft and have a discussion on the tax relief program, and maybe we will pass both of those two items of business. Is there a declaration of any conflict of interest by any of the council? Nope.
Oh,
No conflict.
And none from me. And the old business, the discussion, the Parks Master Plan draft. Have you all been able to read through Angelina's memo with regard to the dune, the dune vegetation section in policy 3.4? She did want us to make note of that.
So noted.
And Carol, do you want to take us through the staff report again, or is there any change in that is
I haven't made any changes. The
pertinent?
findings are exactly the same.
Are there any comments by the council for the staff report at this time? There have been no changes made. Okay.
Now, Mrs. Mayor would just say, you know, I would add in the final version, the people who testified, we have all the names and dates.
Right.
And when the, I think that's it. I think that's it in the staff report. Yeah, that would be all.
And so we will see that one more time in its final form then.
And I'll put a more current date.
So we're gonna also, Chad, you have a memo as well. Any comments there?
No, just that some of the formatting, such as on the bottom of the pages, some bullet points and some graphs are still going to be tweaked, but not material changes, just so that they look a little bit better. We're fighting with a couple versions here, but we'll figure it out when we're done.
Okay. And so I have in front of me the draft from April 12th, 2022 for council review on 419. And Rita, do you have a comment on how we ought to go through this? I feel like we should start again on page 3, but
Back to, really? I thought we were gonna pick up where we were,
okay.
and I think
Suggestion.
that would be mine, just, I don't see any reason to go back to that.
Well, we have to put in Peter Watts's
Oh, yeah,
pieces in blue. And
so you're on page what?
currently mine
Page
3,
but I will jump forward.
I see, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I would say, I think it would be appropriate to start at page 3 and just quickly go through, you know, if in case anybody had any additional comments, sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're gonna be on page 3, guys. And so this has an addition at the bottom of the page. Peter Watts has given us some aspirational language. My recommendation is that we take those 4 lines and move them up above the last section where it says this plan is not intended to provide specific short-term plans. So first we say it's technical and aspirational, and then we kind of finish that off by saying it's not supposed to be too prescriptive.
So would that be number 6?
No, I would just
Or put it as a sentence?
put it as a sentence. Move it up 1,
Sounds good to me.
and obviously remove his suggestion language. Any other changes by anybody on page 3?
So just to clarify, Peter's paragraph for a couple of sentences would be inserted above where it says this master parks plan.
No, above this plan, after number 5.
Oh, okay.
The only thing we're dropping is Attorney Watt's suggestion for aspirational language.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Yep, sounds fine.
Any changes on page 4?
Just a second. Nope.
Page 5, I do have one comment. I'm just gonna go ahead and make it right now. South end of South Ocean. Carol and I were just talking, and we would like that to read south end of South Ocean to Neocoxy Boulevard, right? I wrote
Right.
trail, but it's boulevard.
Right, and there's a right of way there.
And then to say no trail. And scratch private property because there is a right of way there.
Okay.
And then just making a note, the red is all new.
What is red?
It's new.
What is red?
Oh.
I have black and white. I am not colored.
Oh, sorry. All the square footage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, linear.
Or linear feet, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Linear footage.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on page 5?
Nope.
Moving on to page 6.
Nothing there.
Yeah, I had a notation, but it's okay, I think. On page 7, any comments?
Nope.
I have one, my note from the previous session had the sentence under 2A7, under improvements. I had city owns the property approach city maintains the road approach with gravel, period. And that the rest was scratched. I think Peter was trying to tell us to not put so much of that, like, oh, okay, so you thought about it, but you didn't do it. So I think he said to try and delete some of that.
Yeah, it's really not action oriented. Yeah, that was, yeah,
So crossing out and has from to the end of that.
Correct. Just we maintain the road approach with gravel. Does anybody else have any other changes on page 7?
Nope.
Page 8. Okay, I have one change and it's just a typo. It's under 2B2 on the second line, urban growth boundary needs a space.
Did I?
Okay. Anything else on page 8? Page 9.
Nothing.
Okay, so I believe there's an error, and this is in reference to 2C7. It says no non-native vegetation, including trees, shall be cut. Is that right? No non-native? That's not right. I think it's native. So I would cross out non.
I'm sure that's right, but what is the source?
It used to say indigenous,
right.
so we changed
Oh,
it,
that's right.
and then it's just really a typo after
Okay.
that.
Good.
I think
Yeah.
I do have a question, when it's appropriate.
Go ahead.
Including trees shall be cut or removed therefrom. There's the ability right now on the mechanical estuary and things like it, that we can trim up trees for health, branches that are falling, that sort of thing. There's no restriction on that in the Ecoxy buffer zone. So this says no shall be cut, so including trees shall be cut or removed. So I'm not sure what to do there with that.
Is that only for this area?
It's just for this butterfly reserve.
There's probably stipulation in the HOA or whatever development.
Okay.
Well, Pine Ridge, I mean, there's a riparian buffer in that you're
The roadway,
Was that a dedicated?
Shamrock Pines, I think is what this is alluding to. And those trees are trimmed occasionally for their health and so that they're not traffic. I think that if you put out shall be cut or, then we can remain with removed.
well,
I feel like this language.
Isn't that all part of their HOA covenants? And we don't have any authority to change their covenant saying that you can cut trees.
Well, that kind of, so they do currently trim those trees, so I'm suspect that it's in their HOAs, and then the city doesn't administrate any HOA, so we wouldn't be changing anything. They can have further restrictions, but we don't administrate anything to do with anybody's HOA.
How about cutting that whole sentence then?
Well, this is what the plat states, it says.
Right, I don't understand why, this is just technical language about the homeowners association's rules about that part of their property, right?
Okay.
And maybe it does say non-native, but,
no, it said
It
indigenous.
said indigenous, I
okay,
think,
then never remember we changed that.
which may
Yep.
be,
Maybe we should leave that. too.
Maybe it should be left because of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's their CCNRs, it should be left alone.
So should all of this be in quotes of some sort?
I mean, it is in quotes at the start of it, tracks A and B. Should go at the end of it.
Oh, so at the very end quote.
So,
Okay, that helps too.
So that states, okay, no, I understand.
but I see the beginning quotes, but I don't see the ending quotes.
Yeah, no, we
At
just,
the very last.
Okay,
we just added them.
got it.
Okay, then I'm sorry, I didn't mention that.
And this is really stupid, but where it says all vehicular traffic, including trail bikes and horses, I don't think horses are vehicular traffic. I don't know where that goes, but I don't think a
But
horse.
that is how it is,
In the plat.
it's how it's said in several. You see up here on 2C4, all vehicular traffic, including trail bikes and horses, is prohibited.
Okay,
So it's in numerous places.
all right.
Right, and Rita, those are three different subjects in that sentence, not just all related. You know, the commas just make it so that you're covering cars, vehicles, dune buggies, trail bikes, motorcycles, and then you got horses.
Right.
Then I would just cross out the word including, all vehicular traffic, trail bikes and horses. It's prohibited.
But it's the language that's in the plat.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So if, along that line, should we just have kept it indigenous?
That's what we were thinking,
I guess so, yeah.
because that was your
Yeah,
That was
comment.
my comment last time.
Because it's a quote.
Yeah, because it's their language, not ours.
Okay,
And can you just remind me where your quotation marks are?
we just added at the end of the whole piece.
Very last line, very end.
It starts-
And right in the middle of the paragraph,
Oh,
it
right
starts
there,
off
thank you.
with tracks A and B in quotations.
Right. Got it. Oh, I see. Perfect. That makes sense.
Okay, are we ready to move along?
Yes.
Page 10. Any comments? And page 11,
Just a typo, there's a parentheses at the end of the first
if you're exceeding 300, apply for a large gathering permit. And just so you know, the background, actually had stated there, the 300 is already a limitation in that low land because of the tsunami hazard
Right.
overlay zone.
So nobody should get a large gathering permit if it's not allowed.
But, you know, I guess he's saying that maybe there's a special occasion, you might want to have some flexibility to allow one, but only if you get a permit to evaluate it.
Because that allows Chad to go talk to his fire chief or somebody else who knows about, you know, those kinds of regulations in terms of people in small spaces and potential emergencies. I
Yeah,
mean,
It gives us some flexibility as long as we maintain some sort of order and sensibility for safety.
It's temporary too, it's not like it's a long.
That's true, it's just confusing when line you say that you can't do it because of the tsunami hazard overlay zone, and then in the next paragraph down the bottom say, oh, well, maybe you can.
well, so that would have to be rewritten to include that.
Yeah,
yeah, so where does that go?
Probably starting somewhere near improvements that draw a crowd.
Are not allowed to convene more than 300 persons
unless they have received a large gathering permit from the city.
So some improvements to limitations would be replaced with Attorney Watson's comments.
Improvements that draw a crowd are not allowed to convene more than 300 persons due to city's low elevation. And we take that out and put improvements or events drawing more than 300 participants must apply for a permit.
Yes.
You want to take out the reference to the zone, the tsunami hazard overlay zone limitations, is that what you're saying?
I don't know, it just seemed like an easy way to put that sentence in that I'm indifferent.
I think,
about
I mean, I
that.
think you can have that on your permit, so when somebody goes in, how come I have to have a permit? Well, you see right here underneath the title of the permit, it says,
Yeah,
it says it's because we have the tsunami hazard.
Yeah, I think you
overlay zone.
might want to have that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would like.
I mean, I think you want
Yeah.
it somewhere.
At least it sets the context, but.
Yeah.
I agree. So we can put that in there.
And improvements that draw a crowd are not allowed to convene more than 3 persons due to site low unless the applicant requests and applies for and receives a large gathering permit from.
Yes.
The city council.
Yeah, I see that.
And I said the administrator.
Shouldn't say improvements, it should say events, right?
It's fine by me.
I think it needs to say improvements and events that draw a crowd. Improvements actually doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Well, hopefully we won't have an amphitheater that fits 300 people.
That'd be big.
Well, we got to keep in mind that it's in our comp plan that we're not supposed to be a tourist destination.
Right?
I think we'll say events or improvements that draw a crowd out of that. That way.
I don't know any improvements that would draw crowds. Look, we're putting in a sewer line, whoop, there's 300 people watching.
Hey, we got 2 swings. I guess.
A stadium.
Yeah. Let's all watch them play a sewer.
Oh my goodness. Let's watch them change the water.
Yeah, let's watch them fix the water lines.
Okay. Carol, do you have that one now?
I think.
Anything else on policy 3.7
Nope.
and 3.8?
I do.
Go ahead.
On number C, perform any landscape maintenance which may be required to make the path usable year-round as a continuous unobstructed walking path from F Street on the south end to Gerhardt Loop on the north end, and any new trail addition to the north or south end as per policy 17 long-term goals. And that's talking about the North Coast Conservancy land north of Gun Club Road and south of F Street, where it goes down to the creek and then out onto the estuary. And I don't think it'll ever happen, getting a bridge across that. That's way more than anybody can even think of doing. But I just like to add that in there in case we do, for some reason, get some more trail property.
Yeah. Could go down to the Chinook Landing site, you know, through the street and back behind the baseball field
Right.
that
And
way.
if that's the case, that's still just another area, and it
Yeah,
would be nice if we had it in our parks master plan that it would be maintained as a walkable
yeah.
pathway.
That's cool.
I think that's in here somewhere, but it should go here too. So at the end of C, 3.8C, you're adding in any new trail addition.
To either the north or south for policy 17 long-term goals. Because it does say that.
Policy 17 long-term goals. Okay.
That's a
Great.
nice catch.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really,
And item D, everybody's okay with item D?
Yes.
And 3.9, policy 9. Any changes? Policy number 10.
Just based on Attorney Watts's comment there, I thought that maybe it would just be appropriate just to strike off with no above ground permanent structures. In the paragraph of policy 10.
where would you insert that?
No, I would just delete with no above
Oh, there we go.
ground permanent structures. I don't foresee that happening, but I think he was just commenting that,
Oh,
a future council or future maintenance department might decide to put something in there, but it just like,
I think maybe he was I think the conversation was that they were restricting the above ground permanent structures that didn't have city council approval. So I think it should be that the first line where it says with no above ground permanent structures should be replaced with Attorney Watts's comment. As a small open space, any above ground permanent structures must be approved by city council.
yeah, I don't know, the city will, the way I have it without that sentence is, the city will maintain Butterette Garden as a small open space solely for the purpose of community beautification and to provide a peaceful public rest area.
period.
Period. Improvements at this park, oh, that's the other comment I had. It says currently improvements at this park will be limited to. I don't really know what the strength of will or shall is. I feel like shall is kind of stronger. So what I did was put this park shall be limited to landscaping, one or more benches, and potentially a small sign advising the public about the history. That just kind of takes away, I don't know. It just cleans it up for me for some reason, I don't know. So it kind of says what it's supposed to be. This is also aspirational.
I agree with Austin that delete with no above ground permanent structures and put shall where will is. That's good for me.
Actually, it starts with the city will. Should we also say the city shall maintain?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty,
If we're gonna be
pretty
consistent.
strong. So we're not doing the part about the city council improvement. And then do we even need the last sentence? It seems pretty understood we're gonna maintain it.
Under maintain it.
And do we have to state that we're gonna keep a clear vision and clear sight?
That's funny.
Oh, that's only for public safety when you're pulling out on the corner, so it is advisable to keep that in there.
There was comments, I think, on the public comment period that
Right. That,
addressed that.
that it's not been kept clear in the past. Okay.
Well, the whole park itself is really this clear vision area, it's so tiny, but
Right.
it's probably okay to draw attention to it here because it's a unique situation in that regard.
Right.
All right, Rita, any other changes on that one? We're good?
We're good.
We're moving on.
Yay.
Policy 11. Any changes?
I have a question.
Yes.
On 11B, it says that we will improve landscape by removal of noxious weeds, irrigation and mowing of grass. Do we currently have irrigation systems in our park?
We
No,
do here a little bit.
we have one for the garden, and then that's across the way, so we have an irrigation system to maintain those flowers, bushes and trees. And some in Trails End Park, then we have one in front of city council. Irrigation is something that would help us maintain a good thick lawn and prevent some of the weeds and stickers that are in there. But it may also be kind of in the face of a water conservation plan as well. So maybe giving us the option, may add irrigation somewhere in there, you know, as a possibility, and then we can discuss that moving forward.
Thank you. I just wondered, like, if Leslie Miller Park was irrigated.
No, it's not.
No.
That's where the conversation
Okay.
was about, was Leslie Miller mostly.
I have a question, Chad.
Yes, sir.
Do you have backflow devices on those irrigation systems and have they been checked?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I believe we have one at the Centennial Garden as well. Is that correct? Yes. I'll double check Centennial Garden, but I believe it was installed as well.
okay, thank you.
So on B, I'm not sure if we're changing anything, improve landscape maintenance by removal of noxious weeds. Should we say, restrain use
I
of
would just say
irrigation?
irrigation and, or how about mowing of grass and or irrigation?
I mean, what kind of flexibility do you want?
That.
Well, that doesn't sound right, because if you say or, it would say either we're gonna irrigate it or we're gonna mow it.
Maybe we say limited irrigation for water conservation, or we just say,
Or consider irrigation.
consider was the first word I had.
Or maintain current irrigation.
Improve landscape maintenance.
Which is maintaining none.
Well, it may be worthwhile on that top side of the, of that park to have some irrigation, just to try and get rid of the sticker burrs.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah,
it
oh,
may-
yeah, I'm not saying that would be a terrible thing, but if we say maintain the current status quo, which is no irrigation.
I would say improve landscape maintenance by removal of noxious weeds, consideration of limited irrigation and mowing of grass.
That sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
And then it goes on with the trimming of the plants and trees and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think so, so mowing grass.
Everybody good?
Yeah,
Okay, it looks like on page 15, we deleted policy 12, 13, and 14. Does everybody concur on that?
Yes.
man, we went through those so fast, that's great. 12 really stuck us last time.
We're on page 16 now, which is gonna be our policy number 12, the next time we see this.
Oh, good point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Renumber. Anything on policy 15, vehicles? And did.
Looks like Peter wanted to have an ODOT reference.
Yeah, it does.
And I think I know where that is,
Okay,
or should be. Second to last, well, the beach being owned by state of Oregon, managed by the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, and subject to the jurisdiction of the Oregon State Police and Oregon Department of Transportation.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Wow, I don't know how you figured
I was
that
like,
out.
what is this comment?
I had to read that a couple times,
Yeah, okay.
right after with and Oregon.
Okay, anything else on policy 15? Moving on to 16.
This is the big one.
So is it in red because we deleted it?
No,
There was a bit of an, we missed something. I submitted this rewrite because it was very specific to the material that could be used. Which includes, the problem with this one is it went really specific, constructed primarily from natural wood or from synthetic materials, which we yesterday, and without the use of stone, concrete, metal, or plastic. We all kind of had problems with that because sometimes the best bench could have some of those things in there.
Right.
So I did this rewrite, and I'm sorry that you folks can't see this up here. Counselor Kent, so we can read this to you if you'd like.
Well, isn't it what's in red?
no.
No, that's the problem, is my update didn't make it into this. This is the way it should be written, I think.
Okay,
Notice the date on the corner of the update was a week or more ago or so it didn't get inserted right. Correct?
Correct.
So the red was what was in there,
Yep.
Right,
and then this is what
replaces it.
We'll replace the red,
Right,
Yes.
okay?
and it's a lot shorter.
And Counselor Smith, because you don't have colors, the very last paragraph is in red.
Except for any existing metal?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
And I'm suggesting a change that I have here on an email document that you do not have, and if you'd like, we can read it to you.
it would be nice to hear it.
All right, do you mind?
No.
please go.
Except for any existing metal or stone benches, all benches shall be constructed primarily from natural wood or synthetic materials that appear natural wood. Existing plaques and existing benches that indicate memorial dedications or recognize past financial contributions which supported the installation of such benches shall be retained. So as long as such benches and plaques remain in reasonable condition. However, if such benches are replaced, any existing plaques will not be transferred to new benches. Also, if new benches are added, no new plaques will be installed on those new benches. The only real substantive change is the first sentence.
The constructed part,
Yeah, we're basically removing, all benches shall be constructed primarily, removing and without the, where we remove, on the red part, that is in page 16. We would remove and without the use of stone, concrete, metal, plastic, or other man-made materials.
Well, I have a problem with this, just like I said at the last meeting. If you put wooden benches out in the dunes, they're, with the wind here in the winter, they will blow over. They will. Concrete, to me, is much more sturdy for location on the beach or in the dunes.
And the current benches are made of concrete and wood
Right.
and have not blown over. So you're correct, that is helpful to leave them with the concrete. So I like that. I think the point was just to not be.
Wouldn't that come under what Peter Watts has written in his comments? When it
yeah,
comes to outside materials, it comes before the council and we make an approval or just disallow it?
Yeah, I personally like that we shall pre-approve 3 bench types and then
Mm-hmm.
anything else can come to us for approval.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that really makes a lot more sense.
Right.
That's why it wasn't put in there.
Okay,
And I have kind of a follow-on comment. If we had pre-approved bench styles, could we not have pre-approved plaque styles or pre-approved vendors for plaques? Because I really appreciate seeing the plaques on the benches. And I think people who want to contribute money to memorialize their loved ones, that's going to be sorely missed in our community, not having the ability to put a memorial plaque on a bench.
Thank you.
Well, I agree, it would be nice to have standards for all of that. And consistency.
Well, I
And,
guess we're gonna have to have a work session to do that.
well, that'll be fine.
when you, just to put this off, when you determine your pre-approved 3 bench types, well, you want to decide about the plaques now, probably.
No, we could do it at the same time we approve the benches. Doesn't have to be done now, but we can establish the process by which it's done.
Well, I think the question that we need to answer tonight is whether or not we're gonna allow plaques. And I know 2 of you for sure feel strongly that we should allow them. And our current version says we can't put any more plaques on new benches, so,
Does it?
well,
If you took all
it's in
that
that
red
red.
out,
Well, the red's already, it's taken out.
The red's already gone, the whole 2,
From what I read, it is.
we're just down to what Peter's written.
Right.
But in Chad's little memo here, he says if new benches are added, no plaques will be installed.
right,
So we have to take that out. And I also have a comment on Peter Watt's comments.
Go ahead.
Shall I? Okay, the following locations will be priority locations for benches. Then he lists no locations.
I think he was referring to what's underneath the policy 16, A3.
oh, so it's a matter of where you put it.
Oh, so that would have come first.
Yeah,
Well, then that's to maintain those
Right.
benches, and
okay,
those are the priority benches.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Much more sense.
And then the city council can approve other priority locations by application as on a needed basis.
and now what about plaques?
We just removed that last sentence.
Could we have just one bench type that has a plaque attached to it, maybe the 2 other bench types are non-plaques?
Well, sometimes people who want a bench in the dunes to overlook the ocean will say, you know, I used to sit and read here. But then somebody who wants a plaque in the city, it will read something different.
Yeah, no, I think we have to say, no, we're gonna allow plaques to be this big.
Yeah, that's,
And
I
they all
agree.
have to be made out of brass.
Yes,
something like
I
that.
agree.
Or maybe
Yeah.
we're prescriptive enough to say you gotta use a 12 font, I don't know.
Do the plaques have to be in this plan, or can we make a policy or an ordinance on plaques later on?
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I think we can do it later.
This is again aspirational, you know.
Yeah.
The direction ahead, and then we'll figure out how to head that direction. You know, the only other discussion I think that happened right at the beginning, and correct me if I'm wrong, was how to treat these benches, because the ones that are placed, they will need to be replaced.
Mhm.
So do those plaques carry over to the new bench, or do we allow somebody else? That might be a bigger question for the future.
Just to find out the reality check, how many plaques do you have of interest waiting right now?
15 to 20.
And isn't that gonna make it hard for you to keep putting it off?
No, I mean, once it's, we've been putting it off because we've been waiting for this.
Okay,
Once I have this, then I can respond to some of those people that are waiting to donate money to put a bench in with the hopes that it would be memorialized to the family.
and that leads to, but we don't have an answer for allowing plaques?
Well, I think we have a consensus that we want to be able to allow plaques of something that's been pre-approved by the city council.
Yeah, and we could restrict the size or the material that it's made out of. It, it has to be bronze or
Right.
stainless steel or something that's going to hold up.
And we could make a condition later on that if the plaque suffers from weathering and is no longer,
Readable?
thank you for the word, yes, readable, we can return it to the owners and they can either replace it on their own or we'll find someone else that wants a plaque and a bench. Anyway, that's for later. That's just for later.
Okay, so we're not going to add anything about plaques to policy 16. Is that correct?
We're taking away the last sentence, aren't we, where it says no plaques allowed?
Yeah.
I think we took away all the red,
Yeah.
which yours isn't red. It's the 4 lines at the bottom and the first 5 lines on the top of the next page.
All comes out. And
All comes out.
yeah,
Oh, is that your red lines?
Yeah,
Thank
Yeah.
you very much. Everything comes out.
And Attorney Watt's comments goes to the top
right.
of the policy.
And can I ask for another change on F?
yeah, it goes out.
Well, I think you just say city council. I think you want to have the option for other locations as the city council determines to be in the public interest.
Oh, yeah, great
That's it.
catch.
That's in Watts's comment paragraph.
Is it already in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because they're pre-approved. Oh. Well, maybe it all comes out then, or is it just a clarification?
I think F should just go away.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
That's going away.
it's covered in Peters, so yeah.
Okay.
So, and the and after Ladderette Garden.
And,
So we're getting rid of F now?
yeah, because it's in Peter's blue.
Which you can't read, Carrie.
No, I can't, apparently. It's getting dark at my end of the.
Wow.
Okay, we're getting close.
Yep.
Policy 17. Any changes? I have none.
I have none.
Policy 18.
Yeah, I was confused on this one a little bit.
Just for background, the Palmer Pond has been removed as a possible future park, or encouraged as to maybe to be a possible future park, as well as the Deerhart Railroad Station. And other specific sites, and I'm imagining that because I'm not sure who took that out, but it's 2 site specific. Was that, or privately owned, it's privately owned
Privately owned now.
property?
Well, the whole policy 18 is public park and open space facilities associated with new development.
True.
So I didn't see anything relevant to that policy after the first paragraph.
Well, that's, yeah, I mean, that's why those particular ideas were put in here. But,
Even the second paragraph, future activities,
oh, well, that didn't come out in my opinion, but,
or improvements. It just fits weird with the, goes into the specific zones and setbacks and policies, environmental integrity.
It's just a cross-reference, if you get a new development, there's applicable standards in the zoning ordinance that may apply, that's simply trying to make that statement, that maybe it's a little overkill. The part that I'm not familiar with how it fell out of here was the East Gerhart section of Palmer Pond and the railroad station, and I believe it was because
We didn't know it.
we didn't own it. But.
So it could be a development and it could be a park.
Right,
We don't know that.
or it could be a park, a public park within a development.
And the subdivision ordinance doesn't require, it requires a certain amount of open space.
It requires recreation facilities, if applicable, and this would reinforce the subdivision ordinance ability to require a new subdivision to put in a park in that area.
And that's part of the reason we don't have a park is because those subdivisions were done one house at a time.
Yeah, they're small subdivisions. But if you identify some resources over there that are potentials, one is the old railroad station is a pretty cool building. It's historic and it could be used for some park facility. And the pond. And that is reinforced by the wetlands flood protection that the pond provides, the hydrologic control, the salmon, fish and wildlife habitat, which would be protected with a new development proposal anyway. We spent quite a long time on that development proposal. But if we had the ability to link it to the Railroad Avenue Trail and a place for the kids to fish, I don't know, it seems like it's, I don't know, it could be a really good option that doesn't exist over there anywhere.
My kids used to fish in that pond all the time.
Mine too.
They called it Bluegill Lake, because that's what they call it.
Bluegill.
There was a section where there was.
So,
Aspirational.
not to interrupt or anything, but are we deleting everything except for the first paragraph for policy number 18?
I think we're just struggling right now with what to do, Carrie.
In section 5, there's proposed future parks and trails.
Right, that would be a place for that.
I mean, the list, yeah, okay, that's true.
It's on that list, on in our station.
Well, I suppose the policy reinforces the list.
I don't know that it needs to be in here.
Any of it?
I don't feel strong about it one way or the other. I really don't. I couldn't. We've identified it in the capital improvement plan. We've called it out specifically. I'm okay with identifying that there are no city parks on the east side of 101 where many Gerhart residents live. I think that's important.
Well, how about the first paragraph? You don't think, I mean.
Yeah, no, I would keep it.
Okay, all right, the second paragraph is probably just filler, it doesn't really say anything until you get to a park development, and you'd be well past this plan before that. So I agree with taking out the second paragraph. Then East Gerhart, there are none.
I'd keep that, weave it into that first
Yeah.
paragraph.
Okay, and then the red is wherever I can reinforce that future trail. is
I like
helpful.
that. I like that part. I would keep it.
On the East Gerhart part, it has it's not really an action item, it's just stating a fact. So maybe we should strengthen a little bit by saying the city of Gerhart recognizes that there are no city parks on the east side of the Highway 101 where many Gerhart residents live, and we are committed to making a priority of acquiring parks there or developing parks there.
The city of Gerhart recognizes there are no city parks on the east side of Highway 101 where many residents live. And the city, what did you say after that? Is dedicated to.
It is committed to making park development there a priority. It demonstrates commitment to put our money where our mouth is for new park resources.
I almost feel like that if we're just calling out East Gerhart, it should be a separate policy than, you know, public park and open space facility associated with new development. You know, if we go back to 3.13, policy 13, which is the potential to explore acquisition of district park properties, we could just take that wording and pull out the Parks Commission and identify specifically East Gerhart with that language.
Yeah, I suppose we could do it there also. I just feel like that we've done the inventory, we've discovered that there's a void and we need to fill that at the earliest time possible.
Well, I think that helps strengthen it, Counselor Warren, but I don't know if you want to move it.
Oh, move that whole thing to the other section.
To policy 13.
Well, what if we just add the name of policy 13 to what's 18?
13 got deleted.
Right.
13's
Well, there's some wording that I kind of like in that, in 13 at the beginning. I don't.
It's set up to, you know, the title is explore potential acquisitions for additional park properties. So
Yeah,
if we're talking about specific areas that we want to focus on, this policy 18 is just so broad. It's just, if there's a new development, we will try and make more parks out of new development. But and it kind of just lays the framework for that, but it also, in 13, it's basically saying that we're going to prioritize seeking out new park space.
all right.
So
If you're comfortable, I suppose I can try and merge those two into one, number 13. And do you like the A and B under 13?
I think that's just too much detail than we need. We obviously are going to seek out funding sources. Every available one, that's why we're doing the plan.
Right, and so the plan should definitely say there's places lacking in parks, there are neighborhoods lacking. And we should be considering the acquisition of new park land. And that's all the really number 18 was trying to do.
Yeah.
Especially on East Gerhart. But I can see where some of the language in 13 at the beginning says the same thing, right? And maybe it's a better way of saying it. Exploring opportunities for expanding the park system and potential acquisition by the city of additional properties dedicated to public park use. That sounds good. The city should take steps to encourage such acquisitions, take out all the rest of that. Do you want to prioritize property acquisition on private property? Probably not. Because you'll deal with it as it comes. Continue potential funding, well, that would, yes, we should keep doing that. Include funding that might be provided through publicly issued bonds.
I didn't guess I didn't.
Grants, yes, and other public sources, maybe we'll take out bonds, I don't know. Maybe we'll leave it in, but, all right, so I'm gonna try and just rewrite 13 with a different title. And include, merge the opening paragraph, to maybe include some of the opening paragraph in 18. Drop out the second paragraph of 18. And then, you know, focus a little bit on East Gerhart. We have you agreed to keep that Palmer and railroad station out of there as crossed out, or? Yes,
I would think so.
Yeah,
okay. And then leave it according to, Brent's, the city recognizes there are no city parks on the east side and is committed to making park development in that area a priority.
Sorry to make this confusing again, Carol, but I just read that in 18, the second sentence refers to policy 17, which is the long-term goals. We could just add those east side Gerhart items to that.
As a long-term goal.
Well,
Sorry, I should have caught that before. I'm sorry.
no, I should have caught that. You're way ahead of me. So now we're back to those. Yeah, long-term goals. All right, let me make some whole new notes to myself. Add 318 and 313 to 317 as a, I'm not quite sure, maybe its own paragraph probably, huh? A, B, C, D. Yeah, it's gonna have to have its own paragraph where we combine those kind of general aspirational statements with reference maybe to the Palmer Pond or the Gerhart Rail Station or the trail that's already in the TSP. I can do that.
I think even you said there was a void in East Gerhart, that there was potential on these specific locations.
Yeah. Is everybody comfortable with me taking that? Yep. Lead on that.
you'll come up with your magic words, Carol.
I'll try, I'll do my best to match everybody else's magic.
So before we move forward, I've been looking back here on policy 14, which was that the CAC, the park CAC was going to explore potential development of new parks programs. So I added on policy 17, long-term goals, item F, consider development of new park programs.
That sounds good to me.
And what was that, Paulina?
So way back when we deleted policy 12, 13, and 14,
Yes,
Austin just pointed out there was actually something important in 13, so we brought that forward. And so I'm just saying, well, policy 14 talks about parks programs. And that maybe we should just consider that thought as aspirational, that we will consider development of new park programs at the very end of policy 17, a new item F.
Yeah, we definitely need that.
So, are we ready to move on to policy 19?
Yes,
Uh,
I had a comment on paragraph B.
Go ahead.
The word, second line, removed unless posing an imminent threat. I think that should be imminent. IMMINENT instead of imminent threat.
Imminent.
Oh, right.
Imminent or eminent?
I think we had this conversation at the staff level, and I think we forgot to make that change. Imminent,
Imminent, yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
And I have something for A in the application of pesticides, herbicides. That it should be a moratorium between, I believe it's March and July, that cutting of anything in the dunes. I can't remember which policy number it is,
That's E.
back at the beginning.
It's item E.
I have some information on that.
Yeah. Chad has some good information for you on that one.
Thank you. So I did some research, and Christy has done hours of research beforehand, and there is no one policy to kind of entail when the nesting season actually is. So we looked up as many as we could, and we found that places such as the Environmental Services of Portland, the USDA. So Environmental Services of Portland shows that February 1 through April 15th is early nesting season for raptors, owls, hawks, eagles, falcons, herons, geese, hummingbirds. Then from April 15th to July 31st is the primary nesting season. And they're both recommended to avoid disturbance of vegetation and be aware of impacts. And that August 1st through January 31st is the best time for disturbance of vegetation.
August 1st to January 31st?
Correct. So your exclusion dates may be, if you go by these recommendations, to be February 1 through July 31.
Well, if that's the case, then farther back in this document, we need to change some of that wording about mowing.
Mowing in the dunes.
Yeah. And then we need to go to the bat and change the mowing disturbance for migratory birds too. So we need to put that on the agenda sometime in the future, that we need to revisit the bad ordinance.
Oh, yeah, the bad, beaches and dunes.
Ordinance 910
I don't remember.
Right.
as well.
Mhm.
What
And
policy is it?
Ordinance 910 is the clarified, oh no, that's, ordinance 910 is to clarify vehicular access, vegetation trimming, and removal of beaches and dunes overlay zone district. So bad.
Right. I'm sorry if some of you may not know it, but that's, we just call it bad because it was so bad trying to get that through.
Well,
And-
now, on item B, it is different and it needs to match ordinance 910. My preference would be to change the ordinance and leave this as it reads with regard to where the trees are measured.
Right, because before
Been a
the
huge problem.
6 inches was waist high or chest high, and now it's at the base.
Right, and you can tell the base as opposed to waist high when the tree is gone.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, this is city-owned property, so I have a complete rewrite of this, if that helps.
Of that beach.
Well, it depends.
Okay,
All right, well,
Bear
then,
with me.
you wanna start at the
Is this
top?
B? or
This
where-
is B.
Okay,
Okay,
Native trees and shrubs will be maintained as wherever possible, except those that may pose an immediate threat to public and private infrastructure. All other decisions regarding tree removal will need to be based on sound reasoning, and a notification shall be provided to city council no less than 60 days before removal, in which case city council will have final approval. This is city-owned property.
right.
That works for me.
So Chad will no longer have the authority to grant a permit.
Chad will have to notify us within 60 days if there's a tree to be removed. And then we would have final approval, but that tree.
so trimmings will just happen by the current
Trimming
process,
is currently allowed
right?
in the BAT or in our policy, right?
Correct.
Right, up to annually, you can trim the same tree.
This is just for removal.
You know, so when Karen and I were on the Dune and Vegetation Committee, and we had all these recommendations, like, you know, no cutting of trees unless you have a permit, and you need noxious weed removal, and blah, blah, blah. All anybody wanted to do was really cut down trees. I don't think anybody applied to get rid of noxious weeds, which was one of our goals.
Right,
And they all wanted it because they wanted a better view, and I was so disgusted about that. I'm just saying, I like it if we can't cut down any trees at all, you know, unless it goes before the city council. So yeah, I like that idea.
I think if anything's in a city-owned property,
Yeah,
city-owned, we should have approval.
right,
Unless it's immediate threat to infrastructure or the public.
Yeah.
down tree.
no cutting, no cutting.
Against a line or something like that, you know.
Well,
Okay,
And it gives us the opportunity to take some of the arrows previously aimed at Chad.
I'm cool with this. We'll have to do some workarounds for things such as hazards, the fire zone that we established in the vegetation. If it's a broken tree or a hazardous tree for one another, we can add some of those provisions as long as we don't stop that. Then this is workable. I think that it would be best that if we did any work in the park, that it would be the council's decision. Because currently I'm allowed to make that decision, and it's difficult because it's not usually popular.
And we've gone out and looked at a lot of them.
and, okay,
Sharing that.
so have we moved beyond A and we're going to include no spraying of pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides between February 1 and July 31st?
Oh, I see.
You were proposing the use, you were proposing a restriction on the use of herbicides between a certain period, Carrie?
Right, between February and July because of the nesting birds. And if you go down to E, it says April 15th through July 31st to allow nesting birds to be undisturbed. But Chad's just informed us that it's actually February 1st, which I believe is way too early for the North Oregon coast. And July 31st, which I believe is just a little too early at the end of the season, but I'm willing to go with that.
That's for mowing, not herbicides.
Right, no, that is what they said for nesting. February 1 through July 31st, so I believe mowing should be placed in the same category, same time frame.
on item A,
Item A should have February 1 through July 31st for pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides. And then item E should have April 15th stricken and February 1st through July 31st to allow nesting birds.
The problem with restricting the herbicides in A for any period of time is that the effectiveness of the herbicide, if you need to use it, based on this policy, which is specific to noxious weeds on the list by ODA, you can't effectively treat those species sometimes in that time frame.
Well, now we have a conflict.
Well,
Okay,
you're targeting a specific species that might not have any nesting uses.
Japanese knotweed.
Japanese knotweed, for example, it's, I don't know of any bird or species that nests in it. But you would have to apply that herbicide application between July and August, sometimes a little bit earlier.
Like when the leaves have developed or whatever.
Yeah,
On that.
there's an effective period of time when you can use these herbicides, and that's the standard for that.
Would you put those dates in item A as
I
written?
wouldn't put any dates in item A, because
And that's
it's
why
it's a case by case basis. These are like class A and D and team Bs that designated by the Oregon Department of Agriculture, that if something came up, we would actually be obligated to treat them, because they could be a class A weed where it's a weed of concern for the entire state,
Yeah,
and we had to eradicate it immediately.
And we had one instance of that.
Yeah.
There was a large patch of Japanese knotweed right off Pacific Way, just to the left of the first house.
Yeah, I remember that patch.
And able to get rid of it.
You sprayed it.
I didn't, we had, I think, cuts of soil and water helped.
Okay, but it was sprayed.
Yeah.
all right, well, then I withdraw my requirement for the February, July 31st on A, but it would be nice if mowing, and I've got to say this, not that I'm questioning anything, but I called a few coastal cities and none of them said they allow their citizens to mow their parks. Just a heads up, I mean, we're the only one who says, oh yeah, if you want to mow our property, go ahead, you pay for it and just take it down to nubs on the sand. It may be something we need to rethink and consider, because beach grass doesn't get that high. It's not going to interfere with people's sight of the ocean. It just interferes with their sense of this is nice and mowed and manicured. But I'm throwing that up. But if you want to drop A and keep it on mowing, I would appreciate it.
Okay, so are we all good with the February 1 to July 31st dates
I am.
on E.
on E?
On E.
You may need it in B as well.
Why?
Well, I guess not tree removal.
We're not gonna remove the
But tree trimming. Which is not gonna be done except with council, so
But-
never mind.
Yeah, and what we need to do is look at 910 and make sure all the dates are the same, all the measures are the same, all that.
Okay, Austin, can you, for
Yeah.
your sake and my sake, read
Yeah.
your statement, which is going to be under the new B,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
You might have gotten it, but, okay,
Or it's-
or you can submit it, but native tree, go ahead, on
Okay.
city owned land.
B, native trees and shrubs will be maintained as wherever possible, except those that pose an immediate threat to public and private infrastructure.
Hold it. Okay,
All other decisions regarding tree removal will need to be based on sound reasoning
Hold
and
all other decisions on tree removal will be based on,
sound reasoning
and notification shall be provided to city council no less than 60 days before planned removal.
No less than 60 days before
Planned removal.
Yeah, prior to plan
prior
removal,
to plan removal,
and that's so we can act on it.
right?
And Austin, can I add a word where it says decisions regarding tree removal or trimming? I could put trimming in there.
Tree removal or trimming.
That would help me as well.
Okay, okay. In which case, city council will have final approval. Or however you want to word that.
So the imminent and all the other things in there are going away. This is a new
This is a new
B.
B. And then I didn't touch native bushes and thickets
Oops.
will remain and only be trimmed back to allow paths and emergency access to remain passable.
That's still there.
I didn't mess with that language, but we can have that. I don't know how that kind of fits into the whole thing.
Let's see how that,
I was just trying to get at the root of the tree removal
yeah,
debacle.
okay.
How does Peter's comment about not prohibited by state statute or city will minimize use of pesticides in parks? Where will that fit?
Well, that would go back to A, it would maybe be a rewrite of the first sentence. But
Oh, and Carol, there was another, underline city owned in the very first part of that, so you might want to take that underline out.
So how about in A,
Hold
on
on.
the first line, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, yeah.
A on the first line where it says, the city will avoid applying any pesticides, herbicides, fungicides to these areas. Would be crossed out and then Attorney Watt's comments would be added to the extent not prohibited by, or actually
Hmm.
add to the extent not prohibited by state statute, city will minimize.
I have trouble with that sentence. I don't know what that even means.
Extent
To the extent
not
not
prohibited by
prohibited
state
by
statute will minimize use of pesticides in city parks.
Well, if it's not prohibited by the state, the city will minimize those uses of pesticides.
Why don't you say the city will avoid applying any pesticide, herbicides, or fungicides except on class A and B weeds list provided by the department. I mean, that's essentially what we're saying in that first sentence. I don't know.
What is that list title?
The list title is the Oregon Department of Agriculture's noxious weeds list.
yeah, which is in there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, there we go, okay.
So we don't need as defined by the Soil and Land Conservation District.
I mean,
Is it
they
redundant?
don't make that list. I mean, they're a partner in which they can come out and treat those weeds, but
I think when you have to go back to two different districts or two different
Yeah,
groups, it just gets more confusing because you don't have one authority to make our decision on.
somebody will say, well, soil and
Well,
water
this one
said
says
this.
this and somebody else says that. Okay.
We take out soil and water.
yeah, let's take it out. Because really, it's the state list that dictates what the soil
It's
water
the ag list.
district does.
Do we need the line about a licensed applicator?
I think that's appropriate. That would kind of give anybody
I mean, we want them to be done safely,
yeah.
Yeah.
That was the point of that.
and flagged and posted is fine.
Those are helpful to staff, I think you
Mhm.
specify those things.
Okay. Required parks around kids. Yeah, or dogs. Rule. Is everybody okay with C?
The red is just to say it's already in the park zone draft amendment, so you can probably cross that off now that it's in there.
Okay.
It's simultaneously occurring when you adopt the plan.
And this has to do with grass and turf root protection. I didn't have any changes. All right, any final comments from anybody on the policies?
Nope.
Any questions from staff?
Not at this moment, yeah. We did it.
Do we want to go through more detail page by page or each section?
I can help you here, cut a lot of this out. So the section 4 and 5 are the next step, and will actually help with new development to both classify our parks according to the state park classification system as to what we have. We have small parks, we have medium size, we have large parks, we have so on and so forth. And who we're trying to serve, and then putting some cost estimates to improving those parks. This will be a good budgeting document for you when you start planning for your park improvements. It's not complete, I don't think, but it's pretty good. It's a good start.
And it's meant to be a working document. It's meant to be updated periodically.
Yeah, you know, let's just be bold and put a footnote in here that this will be periodically updated by the city council. I think that was,
Yeah.
it's not like we have to go in and amend the whole document just to change the dates or the items.
Yeah, I would just make some sort of note that these are working documents.
Okay, and then you have maps that are just simply reinforcing the trail system, the park plan, the park properties. We've got some potential highway crossings on that trails map that are very tentative, but they're close to what the Highway 101 improvement plan is coming up with. And really just gives you at this point an idea of some crossing places. And then you're in the appendix. So I'm just trying to make you feel better that you really kind of are at the end.
I will make a comment. I've been doing a lot of canvassing on the east side. And I've had a lot of opportunities to talk about the 101 project and the Parks Master Plan project and how we're all trying to weave it all together with some of these crossings, and it's really gone well.
Nice.
I mean, people are really excited about it. So, yeah.
I'm glad to hear it.
So section 7, this is just where we've been, how we got to where we are now. And our survey responses.
A lot of good information in there.
Absolutely. This is all of the data from the survey.
And the demographic appendix D is generally required by the state when they give you a grant for a park plan, because they want to have a starting point of where we were when we developed this plan. So then when we come later to amend it or update it or ask for more funding, we can show how these things have changed.
I just think like on appendix D, I mean, number 9 of data summary, it's per capita income in 2000. How is that even relevant?
Well, that was probably 2000 census. That was the only data available and before the 2020.
Well, not really, but
Uh,
2010.
Oh, well, a lot of the data is out of date.
Yeah, and then it's automatically that happens, but you're right, this came out of the, Plaza County Housing
Housing
Study. They prepared and have done by Johnson Economics. And that was 2018, and that's the data they use, because I
Yeah.
guess that's the way that works.
And then COVID happened and blew all the data out of the water.
And we don't have, we don't have the ability to update this ourselves.
Well,
Until,
I just thought that maybe some of the 2020 census data could be put in, maybe not till you get back to here. I mean, this is census data, 2000 to 10. Seems like we put in another column and do 220.
well, it's quite possible that we could do that, but that is not what we did, because we didn't really have the resources.
I know, and you didn't,
Yeah.
we didn't have the data then either, when you put this
Well, we
together.
got started 2 years ago, we probably didn't.
No, you didn't.
And, you use what you have, and still, if you think about what this is in here for.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We could plug it into the grant request.
Yeah, so we need to update the appendix.
No, like, if we're gonna ask for $1 million, we might wanna use some fresh data
Yeah,
at that time.
it's just a matter of priorities. This was a timely grant, and we took what we had.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's understood, but yeah, we should probably try to update it with the most current available today.
okay.
I mean, could this be another section that would be updated over time?
Yeah, the likelihood is slim, but if we have numbers that are accessible today to fill in some of these things, they'll kind of end up out of context. If you just partially.
I'm
update.
only thinking of just having some sort of population number. Like, we've got 995, 1462, do we know what our 2020 census?
1870 something.
So 1870.
Yeah, we'd have to redo the chart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And this is just filler for the state, right?
Right,
well,
okay.
I mean,
I understand, as long as when we do something that we're asking money, let's use some updated numbers, that's all.
we'll have to anyway.
Yeah.
We won't be here for that.
All right. Any other discussion? We're gonna move on to discussion of the tax relief program.
Just one last comment, may I please,
Yes.
Mrs. Mayor, at the end of this publication is the ordinance. And I just want to tell you what the effect of this ordinance is. It's all listed there. It's very kind of technical, but it's straightforward, and it tells you. Whereas, here's the plan. What is it doing? How is it being implemented? So it's number one, it's amending the comprehensive plan in three places. It's amending the zoning ordinance in the parks and open space zone. And it adds,
So you've moved forward to the staff report for
no,
the.
it's just at the very end of this.
I didn't have it.
Ours
Oh,
is
you don't have it?
separate, sorry, because our agenda says we're gonna
Oh,
approve it
I'm
later.
I'm not looking at your agenda.
Yeah.
Sorry. Are you doing that tonight?
Yeah, so we've got one other discussion item and then we're gonna approve,
Oh,
and then
I'm
we're gonna
sorry.
approve.
Out of order.
So,
It was kind of very back there, so I didn't know
yeah,
what many moves there.
ours is just different. So any other discussion items on the Parks Master Plan draft? Let's move on to discussion of the tax relief program. And Chad, do you wanna walk us through this, or?
Well, I'll begin anyway, and then I'd probably like to turn it over, with mine, the discussion portion of it, but the synopsis is the council discussed the possibilities surrounding implementation of the tax relief program to help ease the burden of fire police station bond increase. Draft program is attached. City Attorney Peter Watts has also provided ordinance 933 should the council choose to adopt the program. We have no recommendation, and Mr. Watts has reviewed that program. And after that, I would maybe turn it over to Councilor Warren.
Sure. Thanks, Chad. Well, in my conversations with people out in the community, canvassing and at the fire station open houses and mayor's coffees, quite a few people ask me about, what are you guys doing for the people who can't afford a tax increase? And so that was a very good question. And so I came up with this as a possible strategy to help mitigate low and moderate income Gerhardt residents. And I would like to point out that this encompasses both homeowners and renters, that there is a way to assess whether a rent increase is attributable to the increase in the bond tax, the bond rate. So we were fortunate enough to have the additional cannabis tax dollars coming into the coffers. And so the proposal would be to allocate $30,000 of that for a program. It would be estimated that that would serve at least 100 households in Gerhardt. So there is an application process. They would have to submit proof of income, and we would verify the tax increase. And depending upon their income level, if they were at 60% of area median income or less, and there's a chart there. So 4-person household would be 43,700, and these are 2021 figures. The city would write them a grant check of whatever the increase was. And if they were 80% of area median income, it would be 75% of the increase. So they would take a little bit more of a hit than the low income people. So the application form is pretty simple. They have to indicate whether they're a Gerhardt resident, where they live, if they're renting or owning, and providing the proof of income, and either their rent increase or tax assess tax statement. So anyhow, we would have no discriminatory questions as far as race, sex, marital status, any of the protected classes. So it passes legal muster. Many other jurisdictions do subsidy programs for low and moderate income. It's not really cutting new territory. I did get one bit of feedback from a Gerhardt homeowner who thought that we were moving too fast on this and wondered why we were implementing it so quickly. And I responded that, gee, I've always heard that government is supposed to be too slow. I've never heard government being too fast, but anyhow, if the bond does not pass, then this probably would be moot. I don't know. We could adopt it tonight, or we could just table it until after May 17th or 18th. I think the fact that we have been responsive to watching out for low and moderate income people in our city is what people need to know right now. So I would turn it back over. Any questions about the program, or whether we should proceed with adopting it or table it?
So if somebody would like to apply for tax relief, they wouldn't be able to do it until the property tax comes out in November, is that true?
Right. So yeah, the property tax statement generally comes out in October.
Right.
And so, yeah, there would be a window from the time that the property tax statements are issued until we run out of money. So that would be the window, the application period window. And I would just date stamp the applications as they come in, and the people who get approved first are awarded funds. And if we run out of funds, we can either reallocate additional funds or terminate the program.
Thanks. Chad, I have a question for you. If the bond passes, how close are we to compression? We're not close at all? Do you know what percentage we're at?
No, but it's low,
Is it, okay,
yeah.
okay.
It's
What
for
was
sure
the
less than
question?
50% right now.
Oh, I was concerned about the tax compression limits, because we've all had all these bonds lately, and I just wondered how close we would be to county tax compression.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Brett, was there a reason why you took the Clatsop County area median income and not the Gearhart area median income? Or we not have that information?
Yeah, because the county incomes are what most agencies use, like the Housing Authority for Section 8 funding.
Sort of like the rural median.
Yeah, it's the county. It's the entire county, including the cities that make up that. So it would not be just rural, it would be the entire Clatsop County median. Which means that median is just, there's as many people above that number as below.
And that 100 households is determined based on that?
That would be an estimate, and we based on an average of $300 per household. I think that's probably a high estimate. So I think we could probably, a more realistic number would be $200 to $250 per household subsidy. Because presumably if they're lower income, their tax assessed value is going to be lower as well. So I'm just saying 300 households would be, or I'm sorry, 100 households would be a pretty conservative number. It could be considerably more than that.
But you're basing that 100 on the median income average or the amount that we have to utilize?
I was basing that on a typical tax increase amount for a more moderate home.
So there are a lot of homes that are in the $300,000.
Oh yeah, there are a lot.
assessed value.
There's actually quite a few in the sub 200,000 to 200, 250, $300 or 300,000 range. And I'm assuming that most of the low mod income people would be in those lower tax assessed value properties.
So it could be possible that we have nobody within that that area of relief that we're providing.
that cap or that median area income.
You know, there's a slide in this plan. It's old data, but it shows,
Was that for the county or for Deerheart?
it was for Gerhart, and then we had the highest poverty rate
Mhm.
in the county in that graph
Wow.
of
Who
all
does?
cities.
And you've got to remember again, how they calculate a median income. That just means that there's as many people earning more than that figure as earning below. So it's not an average. So there are low and moderate income people living in Gerhart. And so we need to be able to make sure that they remain financially solvent. And, you know, I have used the term tighten my belt. And so I've said, my wife and I are going to have to tighten our belt when the tax rate goes up for the police fire station. I make no apologies for that. Is it going to be a financial hardship? Probably not for us, but for some it might. And this program is designed to help those people who will really struggle with a tax increase. But I can guarantee you there are low and moderate income people living in Gerhart.
Well, Brent, I applaud you for putting forth this idea of helping the, I can't say less fortunate, maybe that's not the right word, people of lower income. And, but I could not vote for this measure at this time until after the vote in May. If it was brought up in June, I would be more than happy to vote yes for it and back it all the way. To me, it just seems I question what people would think about us offering a tax break before the vote of the people. Are we trying to buy votes? And it just really, it plays against what I feel is I'm not desperate for their vote. I believe this will pass on its own merit. And this to me looks like the city may be desperate and is throwing a carrot out for some people at this time. Come June, after the vote, I don't have a problem helping people even now, even if we don't have a tax increase because the bond measure fails. But prior to the vote, I could not support this at this time.
Well, as I said, we can certainly table this until after the bond vote is taken.
I would be more
with that.
comfortable with that
Okay.
all the way around, but I had to say that because I feel pretty strongly about that
Okay,
part of it.
could we just have consensus that,
Yeah, I'll get to that, okay? I'll get to that. I just wanna piggyback on and say that the only way I could see it being passed tonight would be if it was contingent upon the bond measure passing. It's not exactly what Carrie's thinking, but it feels premature in some way.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna echo what Carrie said too. Yeah, I feel uncomfortable doing it now.
So it's a consensus that we're gonna table that item until the June agenda.
I would agree with that.
And that will be if the bond or the measure is successful in passing.
yes,
I would still, Mayor, I would still put it on the agenda. And, you know, if we can use some of that marijuana pot money for a good purpose, I am more than happy to spend it on something like this.
Okay, I'm gonna say as time permits for the June agenda, if it gets heavy with other things, this will keep it on the back burner.
Okay, because we do have the budget in June.
Right.
Yeah, but May. Oh, yeah, May and June.
Well, June to adopt this.
Yeah, and Carrie, part of the impetus for this was to get the allocation of the $30,000 pot money into the budget. So
It's a great idea, because we wait another month and we'll have the budget in front of us, or the budget proposal, and we can do that, and we'll have double the bank on it.
We can also, in the budget, just put a line item under non-departmental for grant.
Yeah.
Because we'll have the marijuana revenue, and then in non-departmental, we could just put a $30,000 line item for a grant. And then we can choose to spend it, but at least we have it allocated.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you can do that now, right?
Great, we can do that now.
yeah, that was the idea, just to get it into the budget process so we have a line item.
Okay, so we have a consensus and we're not gonna move on this one tonight. Is there any other discussion on the tax relief program? We're gonna move on to ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance 932, adoption of the City of Gerhart Parks master plan.
Are you going to ask for a motion, Madam Mayor?
I am, I'm putting in front of me the ordinance 932.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 932 with approve as amended.
I'll second that.
Is there any other discussion? So there's no other discussion over there?
No,
Okay,
I discussed enough.
all those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. I mean, not me. Like, okay, like somebody doesn't know what to say. Okay, well, I think this was unanimous. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second? I guess that was a second.
I'll second that if nobody else will.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm not gonna do it anymore.
Thank you, everybody.
Opposed?
Everybody.
Bye.
Hey, Chad,
Yes, sir.
you said you were gonna update me today and you never did, so will you give me a call tomorrow and update me with whatever it was you were going to update me today?
Well, I can update you now if you like.
Is it about the water main?
Yes, sir.
I wrote Peter today to ask.
We're still, currently, we're still working on it. We still have parts of Gerhart that are not receiving water. And we should have it done by this evening, but I haven't checked with them since I've been here. I'm gonna go there next.
Okay, I got to tell you that the address 725 F Street blew out their water lines under their house at the same time as the water main break. And there are other vacant houses of the same age with galvanized pipe on F Street and G Street that you may want to send your guys around and see if they have water running out of the house.
Yeah, we'll do that. One of the things we found as well, because they could be connected with like a water hammer or something like that, that I'm not aware of. The lady across the street